they spread false propaganda about the movement, and some of their claims are ridiculous to say the least. Feminism is about the destruction of the patriarchy, not a desire to eradicate those who self-identify as men.
Which is exactly why feminists so often use the term toxic masculinity, right? It's in support of self-identifying men, clearly, which is exactly the same reason they use the term toxic femininity, right? Oh, hold on. They never use that term. Why, it's almost like they only see the negatives of masculinity and only the positives of femininity, and then have the nerve to call it equality, which is clearly supportive of those who self-identify as men, right? Yeah, maybe not. Next.
It is about the liberation of people from gendered binaries and set roles, which involves being mindful of the pressures men face in a patriarchally constructed society. Some of the most wonderful, supportive feminists I know are self-identifying men, but they are cognizant of their own privilege, and how it impacts women and those of marginalized genders. This is something that those involved in EMRA groups can't seem to grasp as important. Sophie even went so far as to invite the perpetrators along to one of FemSoc's events.
Just a word of advice to any EMRA who might attend a FemSoc meeting. Don't drink the poison Kool-Aid. It's poison. Next.
She said, I would encourage the EMRA group that is clearly skulking around campus to come to one of our events. I wish they had come to our Intersectionality 101 event on Tuesday, which was so well attended we had people sat on the floor, because I think they might have really learned something.
I have to ask, how does she know there's a group? Assuming, of course, that the graffiti was actually written by an actual MRA, how does she know it's not just one individual? I also find it amusing that they think that if an MRA just attends one of their meetings, he'll automatically see the light and be converted. It never actually occurs to her that we might already know what feminist ideology is and reject it. Next.
Another student to feel the effects of this act is Lydia Bevan, the LGBT+ rep for FemSoc, who told us she felt threatened by the forceful message.
Forceful message? Are you fucking kidding me? Seriously? How exactly is men's rights London student threatening? Unbelievable. How exactly are these people going to function once they leave university? Once they have to live in the real world? Once they have to interact with people with differing opinions? Just fucking unbelievable. Next.
She said, the fact that this is in a unisex bathroom makes it a threatening act. Unisex bathrooms operate so that women, men and people outside the gender binary are all given equal license to make use. This assertion of dominance is a vicious attempt to ensure that these spaces remain in balance, and further highlights the necessity for safe spaces across all campuses.
So far in this segment, we have seen claims of online harassment by MRAs of U of T feminists, of course with no actual evidence, and then in the UK we saw feminists losing their shit over a harmless message scrawled on a university bathroom wall. So let's take a look at a third story that ties both of them together. This one's going to piss you off. So strap yourselves in as we travel back to femnazistan, or as it's more commonly known, Canada. Next.
Feminism's fourth wave is the shit list. Social media platforms have become the 21st century version of Take Back the Night marches, only with more media attention. It was shocking but not surprising that women lining up in the Danforth Music Hall's ladies' room during the L7 show on September 6 found a shit list scrawled with names of alleged rapists.
Please note the word alleged. So I'm guessing any decent reporter would condemn such actions, right? After all, the media shouldn't be condoning vigilantism, should they? Well, unless you're a feminist journalist, that is. Next.
That's because L7 is the female-fronted band that not only influenced the Riot Grrrl movement, but also wrote and performed the unforgiving shit list. The song rages over Juliette Lewis's kick-ass, and every other body part, diner scene in the 1994 psycho road trip movie Natural Born Killers as she boots the sexist rednecks who've rubbed her the wrong way. L7 fan Liv Lund, who directs a co-working space for video game developers in Montreal, says the list, at least 3 pages long, attracted a crowd of women in the music hall washroom. As she notes, it's a comment about that particular band, that particular song and what they stand for and what they stood for, and that whole riot girl movement, women taking their place in the scene and being heard. The thing is, women are still fighting to take their place and be heard. Over the past few years, their most prominent platform has been social media, a digital fourth wave of feminism focused on sexual assault. Hashtag after hashtag, from hashtag Gamergate to hashtag rape culture to hashtag FHRIP, has pushed gendered violence and abuse out of the shadows. These are the 21st century versions of Take Back the Night marches, but they get much more mainstream media attention. In Canada, this was most plainly felt last fall when Gian Gamashi was fired after several women charged that he had brutally assaulted them. My hashtag Been Raped Never Reported, co-created with journalist Sue Montgomery in Montreal, went around the world and was translated into different languages. It had women and men recalling how they'd remained silent after being sexually assaulted because of shame, stigma, self-blame, or simply because the charges would never go anywhere. Which is why Rochelle, who prefers her last name not be used, to avoid online bullying, reacted as she did when she saw the shit list at the concert. The Toronto artist instinctively snapped a photo of it, with the names, occupations and accusations plainly visible, and posted it on Instagram.
Oh, the irony is unbelievable. So she doesn't want her last name known because she might get online harassment, but thinks nothing of publishing 3 pages of names of males who she doesn't know in an attempt to destroy their lives without even the slightest bit of evidence that they are guilty of any crime. Look, it's true, some of them might be guilty of sexual assault or rape, but it's also true that some of them might only be guilty of pissing off an ex-girlfriend. Next.
I thought I would like to make a digital version of this, and have as many people as possible see it, she recalls. I wasn't worried about a lawsuit. Fear of having people in power telling you what you've done is wrong can really stifle your actions and behaviors.
Amazing. It doesn't cross her mind for a single moment that there could be innocent names on the list. But think about it for a second. The level of evidence she needs to destroy the lives of a group of men is an anonymous list left on a public toilet wall which anyone could have added names to. This was all that was needed to convict and condemn these men in her mind, and she feels perfectly justified, proud in fact, of destroying their lives based on this flimsy evidence. Unbelievable. What a self-righteous cunt. Next.
I didn't write the list. I saw it in a public space. I have every right to share that and to talk about what it means.
It's true, she had every right to talk about the list, as I am now. I'd even go as far as saying she had the right to publish it if she covered up any identifying information, like the names. But she publicised those names. I'm no expert on the law, but surely this would leave her open to defamation lawsuits. Her actions could lead to someone losing their job, it could destroy families, relationships, friendships, it could even lead to someone being killed or committing suicide, without any evidence. Welcome to the feminist injustice system. Next.
Although there's no way to tell how many reposts the photo got, it clearly had women talking, which was the point of the list, a way for women to share the names of their alleged attackers and issue warnings to others.
And of course, destroy the lives of any man they don't like. Once again, note the word alleged. Next.
Back in my day, we used indelible markers on bathroom stall walls. Once, in Corktown, I saw the words, "So-and-so is a roofie rapist," spray-painted on a garage door. But putting it online is taking it to a whole other level. As Lund maintains, we do need to look out for each other and believe each other when somebody is brave enough to step up and talk about an incident. I don't think we should be brushing each other off. However, Posting on social media a list with full names and occupations that could go anywhere at any time. It's brutal, and it could destroy somebody's life. It could destroy families. It could destroy so many things. I can understand that they may have done something that destroyed somebody else's life, but that may not be the right way to approach the situation. I'm not saying I have the solution, but it could have a terrible negative effect if somebody is accused wrongly.
And yet she did it regardless. And do you know why? Because the lives of males have no value to her. She simply doesn't give a fuck about them. Her cultish ideological beliefs come first. Imagine for a moment, if you will, that someone put a list of female names in a bathroom. Maybe claiming something like, I don't know, all these women have STDs, or even better, they all have AIDS. Could you imagine the sheer outrage from the online feminist media? No doubt they would claim it's proof of the patriarchy and the war on women. They would be screaming that all men everywhere hate and oppress all women. They would claim that it's a shaming tactic designed to keep women in their place, and that such claims, without a scrap of evidence, should be condemned. But of course, it's different when the accused are males. And I would argue that being accused of being a rapist is far worse than being accused of having AIDS. Next.
Even in a situation where it's black and white, when the situation is so obviously rape, people still get off or don't even get taken to court, explains Rochelle. So a lot of people are going to choose a different way of sharing their experiences and talking about them.
And here is the reason that mainstream feminism is so dangerous. It convinces otherwise normal people of a false victim narrative, which then excuses behaviour which would otherwise be condemned. This method can be very effective, as Hitler demonstrated in World War II. But Rochelle seems to be under the impression that even black and white cases of rape aren't taken seriously. That for some reason, even when there is clear, undeniable evidence, the legal system just lets rapists walk without even so much as a trial. Meanwhile, back in reality, if we are to believe rape stats, most rapes aren't reported, which means no possibility of trial or conviction. And unfortunately, often when rapes are reported, there is a lack of evidence. It's not uncommon for victims to put off reporting their rapes for some time, which is understandable considering what they have been through. But it greatly decreases the likelihood of an actual conviction. Unfortunately, rape cases are very rarely black and white. They almost always contain shades of grey, because more often than not, it's one person's word against another. But if we were to believe feminists like Rochelle, there's actually some grand conspiracy to silence all victims of rape. Clearly the the patriarchy is behind it. I get those two confused sometimes. Next.
Just last week, word of death threats against women at the University of Toronto spread on Facebook after, deep in the comments section of a local blog, posts by somebody using the handle Kill Feminists were discovered.
Oh no, not deep in a blog post. Clearly this is monstrous and unacceptable. You know, unlike Kill All Men. Next.
On Monday, September 14th, in response to the threats, a large protest against sexual violence blocked Bloor Street while politicians and activists made speeches. The solution to gendered violence is not increased police presence and securitization, co-organizer Eliada Kerr said in a statement. The answer is community building through collective action and education that promotes feminist ideals like gender equality in school, at work and at home.
And this is how those same feminists promote gender equality. Oh, look at that. We've come full circle. Next.